This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Warner.
Hi, and welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Moments of Clarity. My name is Tiffany Warner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today I have a good friend of mine. He's a published author, a former television host, a veteran, and a child abuse survivor, and so much more. And he speaks out and publicly is trying to end child abuse and raise awareness. And I want to welcome back to Moments of Clarity, Joe Potosi. Hi,
Thank
Joe.
you so much, man. Thank you so much, man, for this opportunity once again. It means a lot to me.
Of course. And thanks for being so honest on the show. And while we were on break, your brother Greg called in. And welcome to Moments of Clarity, Greg. Thanks for calling in.
Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, you're welcome, Tiffany. Thank you very much. Hey, big brother.
Hey, Greg, how you doing, man?
Doing. You know, I was really thinking about what you were leading into, Tiffany, in the last segment in reference to the kind of integrating it. For me, first off, my brother's book is PG-13 to the reality of how bad it really was. And it wasn't until my mid-40s where I become more self-aware about how it has affected my life. And I've given it a lot of thought, and I tell you what, I'm glad that this issue is being talked about, because it is a profound issue in our society and our culture. It's going to have lasting effects for generations unless it's dealt with and there's a dialogue.
Couldn't agree more. So you were there to witness all of the child abuse and everything. You were there right there. How much older is Joe than you?
I'm 48. How old are you? You 52?
Yes, sir.
So 4 years younger. 4 years younger. It's interesting. You were asking about the military service, if I may, Tiffany.
Of course.
Growing up, he went into the Navy, and things really degraded in a lot of ways. And in the Marine Corps, and after the Marine Corps, I chose a career in federal law enforcement, and I realize now, that because of the abuse that I suffered, that
Greg, we're losing you. Get into a better signal.
I'm sorry about that, Tiffany. I apologize. I live up in the mountains in northern Idaho, off grid, so I'm doing the best I can.
We'll do.
But the intimacy.
You said something about the Marine Corps and everything, but the child abuse set the stage for that.
Well, I chose a career in the Marine Corps and federal law enforcement. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to say is, I'm just now in my mid-40s, I began trying to be more self-aware and know thyself. And I realized that the way it affected me was a lack of intimacy in my life. With when I mean intimacy, I mean with not sexual necessarily, but just closeness with people.
Mm-hmm.
I always kept a real safe distance because I felt so betrayed, and it really deformed my life, my entire life, up until a point where I started addressing it and looking at it. And it started with just forgiving myself and forgiving, those who victimized me, and moving forward and understanding that those things can be overcome and you can make a change. So that's kind of where I'm at in the process. A little bit different area where Joe's at, but we see eye to eye on a lot of that.
Well, that's the best thing that you can do, is to know that it's not your fault, especially with childhood abuse. It's
never the child's fault. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you
know how it is. That victim mentality gets into you.
Kids always think they should have done something different, or what did I do to cause this, or all that. And it's not a child's fault. Kids are being kids, and they should never have to go through that kind of stuff. I'm so sorry for what you guys endured.
Well, it made me the man that I am. And, I don't look at it as it's a part of me. I'm just an accumulation of experiences, and I can choose how I perceive those experiences. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Perception is 9/10 of reality. And, I've kind of changed that around. But I had a young man about 3 years ago that his father sent to me. He was going in the military, and he stayed with me in the summer, and he was diagnosed with what's called RAD. I never heard of it before, relationship avoidance disorder, because of his childhood.
Reactive avoidance, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that from physical abuse as a kid.
Absolutely. And the more time I spent with this kid was teaching me things, just understanding. I saw a lot of myself in him. And then I started seeing where that correlated with actions in my life, which didn't serve me, because I was kind of living under that abuse still in certain ways. I mean, things would happen in my career, and if something traumatic happened, it wasn't just dealing with that incident. It would, I know this is a buzzword now, but it would trigger me back to that past. It just would create this tsunami of emotions and feelings and lack of control of those emotions, because I hadn't dealt with those previous incidents,
And they resurface. They resurface after a while.
Resurface. Yes, ma'am.
And then
they
compound and are complex with whatever you're going through at the same. It adds on to the new traumas that you're enduring.
That's right.
And so what did you do to heal from the past?
Well, the first thing was, to clear my mind. I just started, like I said, I had to get over some resentment and anger I had against my abusers, and I forgave them. Not that I condoned anything that they had done, even my own mother, because it was something I needed to do to move forward, because it was just hurting me by carrying that resentment. Raising my daughter and providing, nurturing her and giving her good nutrition and doing the very best you can. I resented the fact that I wasn't given that love and those opportunities growing up, and what kind of man I could have been had I been in a loving situation, and been nurtured and had a father that was there for me. But once I realized, in spite of that, there were some positive attributes of my childhood, which made me the man that I am. And, I was very successful in the Marine Corps. I was very successful in my law enforcement career. And a lot of that, because I was in the violent business, I was pretty good at it. And it was because of my childhood, And I don't think that without that tough upbringing, it was tough. It made me tough. It made me succeed. But I was also really soft and weak in a lot of areas that I now see that true strength lies.
How so?
Well, I think that you need a man needs compassion. A man needs love. This hyper masculinity, which basically was impressed upon us as a survival mechanism, is basically only half the picture. And once I started realizing that, for me, I'm not saying for anybody else, but for me, to let that softer side exist and to live in a place of gratitude and love and compassion, it's so healing.
And it's okay to be vulnerable. Not everything's going to hurt.
Yes. Let it all hang out, man. I don't got nothing to prove. And that's very healing. And talking about it. I've talked to my brothers a lot about it in my 40s. The last few years, we've talked a lot about a lot of things. Not to rehash it, but to integrate it and to move forward with it, and do what we can to reach out to younger kids that might need something. Need a little guidance, need a little structure. And really value the importance of the relationships we have with younger people in our life and what they're going through, because they need that.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. It's a lot of self-awareness and appreciating what we do have, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. And Joe, you can vouch for this. The more you tell your story, the more healed you become, because you're putting yourself out there. It becomes less traumatic, and you begin to realize that it's not anything anybody's going to judge for. There's no stigma. It's not your fault. I mean, all these things from childhood stuff as an adult come back. Right?
Absolutely.
And so you guys have been working and trying to speak out together before, correct?
You got that, Joe?
Yeah. So, Greg was just here a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Came home for the holidays, and we spent a lot of quality time together, and we discussed a lot of things, how we cope with things today, and I see a lot of growth with him, and I feel like, at different times in my life, I felt closer to certain brothers. Me and Greg have always had a good relationship,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel in the last, I would say 10 years for sure, I feel really close to Greg. And we have, we were the targets, not just my stepdad, but my mother. And he was able to get out of a lot of stuff, though. He could talk out of stuff in a heartbeat, but I didn't have the gift of gab back then.
You got it now.
Amen.
He was pretty slick.
Well, maybe he's still so. That's why he's in law enforcement. Join the good team. Either join them or beat them. I don't know. Criminal minds.
So, I'm going to share that next story, if I could, really quickly. So I get out of the Navy, honorable discharge. Actually, I had to do some reserve time. So I got out of the Navy. I got a job. At the time, it was just a job at a local bakery, Colonial Bakery. Some people may recognize the name. I bought a car. It was a 77, I believe, Pontiac Grand Prix, black with red interior. It needed some work done to the brakes. I bought the car for my cousin. He did the work to the brakes. And one particular day, I got off work. It's in June. It's extremely hot outside. I get off work in the bakery. I go to my mom's because my sister and her kids were there. I spend some time with my sister, then I leave to go to my apartment and heading north on Stanford Street. It's a hill, so I'm going down this hill. I'm approaching the stop sign. I realize I have no brakes. I keep pumping the brakes. There's no brakes. I try using the emergency brake. Nothing. And the car doesn't have seatbelts. And up ahead, the street dead ends. There's a T. There's a street that goes east and west, and the dead ends of the street. There was probably 20 or 30 young kids playing outside in front of this house. And I was moving right for them. I was heading right for them. Remember that black car, Tony? Greg?
Yes.
But, yeah, I only had it for a few months. Anyway, I had to make a quick decision. I threw it in park, thinking it would stop it or slow it down. It just started going faster. So I'm talking millisecond decisions. I can either aim at that house and try to avoid the kids or aim at this big wooden utility pole. So I started honking my horn to tell the kids to get out of the way. And knowing full well I'm going to aim it at this pole because I don't want to hurt no kid. And then I decided I'd be better off by jumping out of the car.
Sean.
Because I don't have a seatbelt. I think I'll fare better. So that's what I did. But what happened was, after I jumped out of the car, it hit the pole, and the car bounced over. As I was laying there, I felt like a million pounds was on my back and on my chest. I couldn't move. Some elderly lady, Hispanic lady, came up and started praying for me in Spanish. And I started crying because I thought maybe I was dying. I didn't know. Long story short, the paramedics got there, and they kept asking me, as they were treating me, who was driving the car? I said I was. And they said, there's no way you can be driving a car, because if you were driving a car, you would have got ran over. You must have been the passenger. I said, I was not the passenger. I was the driver. So needless to say, it was a miracle that happened. I get to the ER, discovered I have a fractured L4, and I broke my left wrist. And I was resentful, angry at my cousin for, faulty brakes or whatever. But I